Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Meet a Triathlete with the Pentland Triathletes trial podcast. Still a trial. We managed to get to episode 3, so that's pretty good. We will introduce our guest in a second, but first of all, let's say hello to our live audience who joined us again to be part of this recording. The main purpose really is an excuse for a social, as we've said in previous episodes. So thanks for joining us. Thanks if you've been to the event before. There'll be one of these every month for the time being, and hopefully see some of you here in future if you haven't managed to come along for the live recording so far. Good. Kirsty, welcome. Kirsty McBirnie is our guest for episode 3, a long-standing member with Pentland's Tri and heavily involved in Pentland's Juniors as well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, all
Excellent.
good. Yeah,
calm
nice.
And relaxed.
Oh yes, wasn't bullied into this at all.
Brilliant. Okay, well,
came willingly.
Came willingly. I twisted your arm last time upstairs. Brilliant. So let's start at the beginning like we always do. So back in the school time, what sport activities, outdoor activities, we're obviously building to triathlon in the end, but what was keeping you busy outdoors when you were younger?
So I probably have always been a little bit into sport, different sports though, as I've gone through the years. So as an early child, I was mad keen on gymnastics and couldn't get enough of doing cartwheels everywhere and loved going to my gymnastics. So I kind of did that 3-4 times a week, probably driving my parents crazy, having to take me to all the competitions and things that I used to like.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit that teen age years, and I think I probably gave up gymnastics around 15 or so, concentrated on schoolwork, or tried to, for a few years. And then when I was at university, I then got into doing climbing and met my other half who was into climbing as well.
Yeah.
So we then did a lot of climbing together, pre-kids, which was great fun. Did a lot abroad, like in the Alps, and did some in Greece and Spain. So we used to have a lovely climbing holiday each year and climbed in the UK. And actually knew Claire, who's here as well.
Well, episode 2, Claire, you also talked about climbing to start with, so there's a bit of a theme going there, which is great.
So I was just developing some core strength really, and some finger strength and everything else, and
core strength.
Core strength.
But no swimming, not much running, if any. No bicycles.
None of that. No, that was definitely not even on the horizon at that stage.
Okay. So as we're going to hear, I think we all know that you've achieved a lot in triathlon, in the amateur world that we all hang out in, and we'll explore that more. But coming into triathlon, which we'll ask more about in terms of how that happened in a second, but just when you haven't done much swimming, when you haven't done much cycling as a child, some of us, episode 1, Warren, who's here, and myself grew up in warm Southern Hemisphere, did lots of that as children. What is it like as an adult getting into swimming and into cycling from a kind of competitive side of things? Really, for those folks who are approaching coming into triathlon and don't have that background either.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stumbled into triathlon really post kids, like when I couldn't really climb because my husband and I were busy looking after the kids, and you need one of you to hold the rope when you're climbing. So it didn't work when there was 2 of us trying to do it.
Child.
Yeah, we did it for a bit, and the child sort of played on the floor, but then they got bigger and they could get around a bit too much, so we had to stop that. So then after having my other daughter, I then just needed to escape sometimes probably. So I thought, I'll maybe try and go for a run and just get some time out. So I'm not really sure what prompted me to go for the run in the first place, but I did. And fresh air. Yeah. And I thought, this is good. And then quite enjoyed it, actually. It was just something different to do, something for me, just not having to think about things. And then I remember doing my first running race, and it was the Benally School Fun Run, which was a fun run of it was 10 miles, so it wasn't really fun. There was different options, and there was like a shorter one, and that was the long one. And I thought, I'm going to aim for that, because I'd sort of built myself up to being able to do a 10k or whatever. And I thought, 10 miles, that sounds good. I'll give it a shot. I know. So it wasn't really it was for fun. It wasn't that competitive. So it was up around the reservoirs near here. And I thought, right, I'm going to build up and try, and that would be my aim, to try and do that. So I did that, and I actually I surprised myself and got around it in one piece and was buzzing afterwards, because I did all right. And I thought, that's it. So I think that was the seed sown for, right, I can do this, and push myself a little bit more. Joined Harmony, did some, which is a running club.
So it was all running.
Bit running, yeah, run. Running basically until I got injured, and then thought, okay, maybe I need to do something different. So then decided to, I swam when I had children and stuff. When you're pregnant, there's not much you can do, or you're doing less probably activities when you're pregnant. But I did swim with my children, and I swam whilst pregnant just to keep fit, but it was proper head out water, not anything. It was definitely not impressive at all. It was just going from one end to the other, not many lengths.
So that's again similar to looking at Claire here's episode 2, the kind of journey into swimming and kind of getting that going.
Swimming. Yeah, I didn't really. I think I knew how to swim a little bit, but the technique would have been atrocious to start with. Right. Yeah.
And then cycling. What was it like learning cycling?
I didn't even have a bike.
Right.
So I didn't have a bike.
Did the cycling come after triathlon, or was it similar, just a journey of luck into different things?
Yeah. So I then thought, well, maybe I'll. But I can swim and I can run. And someone said, oh, maybe I'll get a bike. And I think we had kids at that point, and they obviously get bikes when they're children. And you think, oh, I need a bike to go with the kids. So I bought like a really basic, like very heavy, old school. I can't even remember what kind of bike. I'm looking at my husband because I'm terrible.
Just suddenly
like what bike? But it was like, honestly, like totally basic, bike. And I got this, and I thought, oh, that's quite good. And I didn't mind it. I didn't love it at first, probably because it was so heavy. Actually, it was hard work. So that was that. And then.
But Mr. McBirnie had a background in cycling, sure.
Oh yeah, so my husband cycles a lot. So there was obviously, there was some bikes in the garage, so I knew what they were.
You knew what it looked like.
I just didn't know how to work them or make them go very fast.
And then how did triathlon suddenly become a thing?
So I think I kind of had a thought like, oh, maybe I should think about triathlon actually, and just put the 3 together. And a friend who'd done one, who was not particularly sporty, and she said, oh, I've done one, it was really good. And I said, oh, I don't know. And I used the excuse of, well, I don't have a tri-suit. That was why I can't do a triathlon, because I don't have a tri-suit. And then she messaged me one day saying, do you know how I got one? I got my tri-suit, my first one, and I got it in Aldi, and they've got them on special. You need to get down there right now. And I literally jumped in the car and bought my first Aldi tri-suit. And then I got home and I thought, oh, now I need to do one. So that was it. I had to.
Well, at least you went and bought it yourself, as opposed to being given it as a present from someone unexpectedly.
Yeah, Aldi tri-suit. I had to start somewhere, and I thought, right, I've got this tri-suit. So then I signed up for one of the Borders series, like a pool one. Later that year, and did that was the.
So which one was that in the Borders? Remember?
It was. Steve, I'm really sad because I actually keep a note here of all my little triathlons. I'm on to race 2. My first one was Hoik, and it was 10 years ago.
10 years ago, exactly.
10 years ago was my first one in Hoik in the summer, and then I loved it so much that I did another one. I did the IMAS one later in that year.
Right. Okay. So it was sprint distance initially.
Sprint distance, yeah.
And how was the first race? What was your experience? What do you remember of it?
What do I remember?
Full swim as well. So
yeah, I remember taking a long time in transition. I couldn't understand why everyone was running around so fast, because I was taking my time to get changed, get ready and get zipped up, and obviously I was proper shoes and everything on. But by the time they came to the run, I think so. I was like I'd been doing a bit more running by that point, and I was not too bad at the running. It's always been my kind of better of the 3 disciplines. So by the time I got into the run and I was overtaking people, I was thinking, oh, this is great. I'm having a good time. I'm going to finish on a strong, positive note. So yeah.
Talking about your run, and this is kind of suddenly popped in my head. The first time I came across you and your running was in St Andrews. Do you remember the duathlon? Was it the Scottish Duathlon Champs or something?
Yes, yeah.
And we'd had to enter a run time or something too. This is run, bike, run. And there was waves going off. Yep. So I was feeling particularly ambitious, and I put in a quite sharp run, and there was me and a bunch of 20-year-olds, which I thought was a bit kind of scary. And then I turned around and there you were. And I thought, what? What's going on here?
In the wrong place. What are you suggesting, Jim?
I thought to myself, I'm going to be honest, I thought, Guys, I think you must have got the wrong time in there.
Was that before or after I particularly?
That was before, because it was a 5Ks and then a bike and then the 2.5 run. So on the 5K run, I'm second last, and I know you're behind me. And there's all these 20-year-olds that have disappeared into the distance. And with about 500 meters to go, I'm thinking, oh, Kirsty being miles back, and I turn around, you were right there. You were literally right on my tail, running an incredible time.
Chasing you down. Yeah,
that was great. Yeah. So that was your first one.
First one. Yeah.
And then how did it build from that point on?
So I did these pool ones, and I wasn't thinking, open water or anything at this stage. Did the pool ones on my very heavy bike. I mean, the bike was like, I was really slow on the bike, I think, compared to.
Were you getting any advice on that?
Well, he wasn't quite. There was no. I wasn't investing in another bike. So I just literally bought this one. So I did think, well, maybe further down the line, I'll maybe get another one. So the following year, I then did the whole of the Borders series. I thought that would be a good thing to do. I quite like a series, and that'll keep me going. So I did them all, and I think I was second overall female. And by this point, I'm not sure exactly what age, but I was definitely in the seniors category. So I thought that's really good, second overall. So that was that year. And then the following year, I decided I'll do my first open water triathlon. So I kind of progressed to that the following year. But the first open water was just like, I honestly think I did actually have a panic attack in the water. It was just like, couldn't breathe, and everybody splashing around me. But just a sprint, a sprint. It was Lochore. Just the water was really cold, and I'm not great with the cold, as many of you who swam with me know. I need to get really cold, so I think it just got really took my breath away. So I did another one later that year just to tell myself that it wasn't going to be a one-off and I could do this, and that went much better. I just stayed really much calmer and didn't worry about the pace or the time. Just thought I just need to get through it without having a panic in the middle of it.
That's always impressive when I having grown up basically in water from as early as I can remember. I've never had, and I've loved being in the water. I've never had that feeling of being nervous in water. And when I hear folks having that challenge in the early stages, it's amazing how people keep going through that and don't just go, right, that's it, forget it. I'm not going to do it. So did you find? I
think I bought the wetsuit at that point. So that was I think actually, so a bit like the tri-suit, I think my other half, I think, had bought me the wetsuit at Christmas, and I sort of tentatively said I might want one, but I wasn't totally sure. I said maybe I should do this open water thing, but I'm not sure about it. So I think then when this appeared on Christmas Day, that was it.
That's the first top tip. Buy a wetsuit. There's no going back until you get used to it.
Buy a tri-suit, then buy a wetsuit, and then that's it. You're committed.
Okay. At what point does it start to get a bit more serious, and when you start to get a bit more ambitious?
So I think I did those open water ones, and then did a few more the following year, and then the time sort of started improving. And by this point as well, I was doing quite a lot of running on the side, so I was still kind of dabbling in the running as well as the triathlon at this stage, doing a few marathons, and so the running times were getting shorter, which was good, but I was still trying to kind of balance the two. So I did that for a few years, and then I think after I'd kind of sickened myself with doing the marathons, my last marathon was the London Marathon, the year that it was the hottest year on record. And I trained really hard, and I did get a PB, but I did feel that I'm not sure I want to go back to doing a marathon training again, because that was intense. I'm just going to switch over to doing triathlon, which is then when I sort of focused more on doing triathlon, and got a few podiums. So I thought, all right, maybe I'll look at this age group thing, because somebody I think had said they were doing the age group. Jill, actually, in our club, I think she was doing age group, and I thought maybe I should.
So this is, for those who are not sure, this is the GB age group team competing in European and World Championships, which luckily are mostly in Europe or sometimes in the UK, occasionally in Australia.
Occasionally in the UK. Maybe in the UK.
Glasgow. I was in Glasgow in 2018 or 19. So
that was definitely before I got into it.
So you started to think about the GB age group thing, and then how did the first kind of qualifier and first race all come to be?
Yeah, so I think I did the Edinburgh. I thought I sort of progressed up the distances. So I did my standard, did a sprint, and then I did a standard, and then I thought I'll do my first half Ironman, which I know a few of us in the club here did, which was in Edinburgh. So I thought that would be a good thing to do, and I did. I think I did okay in that, and that was what kind of sparked me thinking about the age group thing. And so I was thinking I'll try and qualify for a half Ironman distance for GB age group, but then COVID happened. So I think I signed up to do. I was all.
So you hadn't qualified yet.
I hadn't qualified,
right.
And then COVID happened, and we all thought it wasn't going to last too long, and it obviously did, and races weren't really being held. So I sort of kept training, but actually probably got quite strong because then you're working from home and had a lot of time to train in between working.
That must have been very frustrating. Can I just, on a personal note, say it's probably slightly less frustrating than qualifying in 2019, getting all excited about competing in 2020 and it not happening for 2 years.
Yeah,
that was quite frustrating. The suit just hung in my wardrobe for 2 years, staring at me, waiting for the first race after I qualified. So was that first one in Bilbao then?
Yeah, so the first one was in Bilbao. I did Aberfeldy to qualify.
And there were a few of us there. The family team was there.
Yeah, family team
I was there for another event.
Probably one of my most favorite races so far, actually. Like, just because I had family there and I got top 10 finish, which I really hadn't expected. It was my first European event, first GB outing in my GB suit, so I was all proud as anything doing it. And it was a later start. It didn't start until about 2 o'clock, and it was really wet on the bike as well. So once I got through the bike and I got through it, and then it kind of cleared up for the run, and it was quite late by this point, but there was loads of spectators out on the course. And I had a really good run time.
And it was up and down the river, so you got. It
was up and down the river, and I kept passing my family who were all there and cheering me on, and they were sort of saying, "Oh, you're doing quite well, top 10." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." So I was sort of ticking off people.
Okay, let's just put this in context. I was there, top 10. Was it 7th?
Yeah,
7th in the European half Ironman champs. What was your half marathon time?
So it was 1:30 something. Yeah, 1:30, like 38 or something.
1:30. I was sitting there watching it and looking at my watch, watching you come past, going, same as I felt in St Andrews. Oh my God, look at this! This is incredible.
I think it was just on a total high for that one. I do think it was slightly short, so I think it was 20 kilometers. So it wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, it was a good time. It was a good time. So yeah, really enjoyed that race, and just like going down the blue carpet at the end of the GB thing, wearing the big suit and thinking you've had a good race. Like, that takes.
It was exceptional, and you became a club champion that year for that race, I think.
I think I maybe did. Yes.
You maybe did.
Yes.
Yeah. So preferred distance, that was the half iron.
Yeah, so I did half Ironman there at Europeans, and then I thought, I'll try for standard distance for European the following year. So I did that the following year at Madrid, which you were there, which turned into a duathlon. On the day they turned into a duathlon because there was no swimming because there was water pollution issues. Which seems to be a theme in triathlon at the moment.
Yeah.
So I quite liked the Madrid one as well. Top 10 finish for that as well. So kind of happy with that. And then this year I did. So then I basically got the family to come along and suggested to my husband, since he was such a good cyclist, and I think during COVID he started to run a little bit. So I said, right, you should do the duathlon. So we both qualified for European duathlon. And we were in Portugal last year for that, so tried that, and then I also still did. So
I was also there in Coimbra, but we were there the week after you, so we didn't see you there. Yeah. And how did that
go? Good, top 10. I think it was just 10th on. Yeah, can't remember. No, yeah, it was definitely top 10.
And
my other half did good as well. Yeah,
did pretty well.
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah.
Finally joined the dark side from the cycling side, multi-eventing. Yeah, good.
I did that, and I did Vichy in France last year as well, so the European standard distance later on in the year. So
preferred distance.
I don't know. So I've still to try one distance, which is on the cards for this year. So,
okay. Well, let's build on that. So you don't know what you prefer. You're still experimenting, but you are going to be experimenting again with your next target.
Challenge is Ironman Copenhagen. So I haven't done an Ironman.
And you're entered, and it's all set.
It's all set. I'm on the training program. I'm going for it.
Yeah. And when is that?
It's August.
Okay. So not actually that long in the big scheme of things for a race like that. From now, I mean, not long to go.
Probably my phone tells me. I think it's 26 or 6 weeks or so. I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how's the training?
just started, really, like just a few weeks in. So so far so good. So
okay, so this takes us into the next set of general kind of questions, which is around training in general. Obviously, we're keen to hear any kind of top tips for folks who are at the stage you were at kind of a few years ago, just coming in. There are lots of different ways that you can train with kind of in-person coaches, some around here, some of the different clubs, obviously. Pentland Tri Club is really a kind of good place for people coming into the sport, and then when you get to your kind of level, there's experimentation with lots of different things adding on top of what the club can do. So what are kind of things you've been doing outside of what Pentland Tri Club does?
Yeah, I mean, I think just sometimes, I mean, I've kind of been a member of different running clubs as well. So I joined Harmony and was with Harmony at the beginning, and that kind of got me into it. And I think it's quite nice to have a group of running buddies sometimes as well. And after I'd done the marathon and I was fed up running on the flat and on the canal, I joined the Carnegie Running Club and I did loads of hill racing. So actually hill racing is really good. Like hill running and doing any kind of running up and down hills, I think is good for building up some strength and keeps you off the road, keeps you a bit less injured, different change of scenery. So I do like going on the trails and hill running, and you can take it a bit more easy, have a chat when it's a hard hill. You just walk up.
So what's your program for this Ironman based on? How's it set? Where did you get it from?
The training program I've watched now is from Training Peaks. So I use Training Peaks just now, and it's from it's like a coached program that's a kind of bought program from Training Peaks, and it's the same person, the coach. So it's not, I don't have a personal coach in the kind of sense of someone that I speak to, but it's a coached program that you sort of download that, and I used this same guy from for the duathlon last year, because I didn't really know where to start with training for a duathlon, because I hadn't really done duathlon properly. So we'd sort of gone on, my husband and I actually followed the same training program for the duathlon last year, and the program was really good. And so I thought.
And was that different from the training you did for Bilbao?
Yeah, so the training for Bilbao, I used the Dawn Fink and Melanie Fink Ironman Iron Fit for Women training program. It's quite good. Yeah. It's got different. It's got sprint and standard and middle distance. So I followed their middle distance plans, and it's got a kind of beginners one, and then an intermediate, and then an advanced. So, or competitive, I think they call it. So that's quite a good book for following plans. Would recommend that. And I've done. And
I'm not familiar with either of those. So what would you say the kind of main differences are?
So I think when I did it when it was just in the book, you're just kind of told what to do that day and what zone your running is or whatever. But I think what I liked about the duathlon was the fact that it all syncs, and it's all modern technology, I guess these days. Everything's
from
syncing.
Your watch or your bike computer or whatever.
Exactly, it's syncing down onto your bike computer, and it's syncing onto your watch. So like I had an interval session to do this morning that it tells you, right, you're running at that pace, and it tells you too slow or too fast. Right. So if you're in the pace zone, it tells you if you're going at the right pace, and and it tells you when to go. So there's no getting out of doing, with your intervals. I suppose you can say, maybe that's enough of the interval. I feel tired now, but you can't if your watch says you've got 30 seconds to go still.
Yeah.
So.
And does it take into account any kind of feedback it's getting from fatigue or kind of condition that you're in vis-a-vis kind of heart rate or anything like that? Because episode 1, Warren is also here. What is it that you use that kind of does some kind of AI?
Yeah, I use one called Tridots.
Tridots, that's right.
It's pretty similar.
I was going to say Tridots.
Yeah, I did look at Tridots. I was chatting to Warren to see what plan. I think it's all AI generated and probably adapts.
It kind of looks at, well, this is what we said you should do. This is how you got on, and then therefore next time we'll adjust intensities and things like that. Yeah. Does Training Peaks do that, or does it just say, right, this is the next one, this is the next one?
Yeah, I mean you've got a range for where you're meant to be, your pace. So my sprints today were meant to be between 3:37 and 4:10 pace. So it's quite a big range for the sprint. 3:37 and 4:10.
For how far?
It was like that was 5 times 2 minutes at that.
That's moving. Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel like that this morning.
And did it tell you were going fast enough? Insult.
I used the wind as an excuse
Extra
this morning.
Extra bonus will insult you as you go. For
Yeah,
not
I mean,
trying hard enough.
so it'll adapt. So actually, I think afterwards it did say it'll tell me on my watch if it wants to update your lactate threshold. So it'll update on my watch for the zones, and you can go in and manually change your things. Or if you're doing an FTP test on your bike, and you can put different power zones in if you've just done a recent power test or something like that, then you can update it.
Okay. So we're flying through the time. You won't believe we're actually kind of going into the final stage here. So this is how much fun are we having? Just the time to come like that.
Ask the audience.
Yeah. So top tips over the we talked about this before. If you could go back 10 years, knowing what you know now, and you're just starting out, you've just got that wetsuit at Christmas, and you know that you can't avoid another open water swim, you're going to have to go and do another one. What would you tell yourself now based on what you've learned in the last 10 years?
I think definitely get with a club, because I think, and being in a club and having some people to go for a swim with, make it a social thing. And like I've got lots of fond memories of going on bike rides with the club, and and having people to go along with is always good. And maybe just, I think probably focusing on your weak sport as well, and just maybe trying to spend a bit more time trying to work on that weakness. I've spent quite a lot of time on the turbo, lots more than I did 10 years ago, put it that way, and I didn't really bike. So yeah, trying to focus in on your weakness and see how you can try and make
so running was obviously your strength, and how's that, has the others caught up with that at all? I mean, how does bike compare to running now in terms of what has your weakness changed, I guess, or your strength changed over the time that you've been training and racing?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think on the swimming front, I'm still improving on the swimming, because I had to do a CSS test at the beginning of this block of training.
CSS test?
Yeah, critical swim speed test. To measure like your
critical
zones.
swim speed.
Yeah, critical swim speed. Just because one of the swim clubs that I'm with, they use that as a pace for when you're told
for your training.
Right.
Okay.
So the swimming's still improving. So that's good. But most things go downhill with age, because I'm clearly not.
We're all the same.
Not 20 anymore.
All of us are getting older. No one.
So I think the running. I mean, I'm still kind of. Yeah, it's still. It's difficult. You don't do the same running races always, so you can. It's always different things with running, and I tend to avoid. I know you're avid into parkrun, but I don't tend to go to parkrun that often, so I'm not sure where the running's probably staying similar. It's not going downhill, which I think with age is good at least. And the biking is definitely improving. Yeah, it's improving still. So things are still going up. So I just hope it keeps going that way. But I'll probably get a lot slower training for an Ironman, because it'll be all long endurance stuff. So
yeah, I don't know about slower over the shorter distance, but yeah, obviously it's about endurance and just time in the saddle and time on the feet. I've only, as most people know, I've only done one Ironman, and that is it. I'm really not inclined to go back again.
I am doing it to tick the box, so that when I say to people, "Oh, I do triathlon," "Oh, and have you done an Ironman?" And I say, "No, I haven't actually. Just a half."
Look at all these other things.
So I feel like I have to tick that box
Exactly.
and do the Ironman.
You called me on parkrun. I just have to say, parkrun is actually my long run of the week, because I run there and then I do it.
Okay.
So I build it into but it does clash with swimming on a Saturday, which is a pain.
Yeah.
But anyway, by the by. So highlights and lowlights, best moments, kind of not so best moments, whichever order you want to go at.
Yeah, see, you gave me the heads up on this, and I did have a little think. So I have one race that was like the best moment and the worst moment. So New Year's Day triathlon 2 or 3 years ago. So I won outright female, not just from my age group, which is I'm in.
Which is amazing.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And it was freezing. It was the race that you crashed at, Jim. So sadly you didn't see me collect the podium prize.
I was halfway home in the crump.
Yeah. So, but it was a really bad race from the point of view. It was on New Year's Day. It was absolutely freezing. And as I said, I get really cold. So even by the end of the run, I was like, I'm so cold. And I think I was just running faster because I just needed to finish because I was freezing and couldn't feel anything. So delighted to have won first, place, but then was very sad to see that when I came out, my bike that I just put on my car was no longer there and had been stolen. so not a good race from that point of view.
It's so grim. I can't even think of a funny side to that. That's just horrible.
No, so not good from that point of view. Highlight as well, probably on the racing front. Yeah, Bilbao was good. Another low point or funny low point was where I went to a race midweek and it wasn't particularly organised because it was midweek and clearly was working right up until the last minute, and had asked my husband if he would mind packing the bags for us, which I know.
I heard the story before. I was looking at the reaction.
I did. There is two sides to this story, but I did say, would you mind packing the bags? Because he was also doing this. It was a duathlon, so there was no swimming because my husband doesn't do the swimming part.
He doesn't need to. It's so quick on the bike.
So he was packing the bags for us both, and that was that. And all I thought I had to do was put on the tri-suit. So I did that whilst trying to finish up some work calls, and literally jumped in the car. Off we went, and when we got there, I opened up the boot and discovered that he pulled out his big IKEA bag with all his kit. And I said, "Where's mine?" And he said, "Did you not lift the bag?" So I had no kits. So I had a tri-suit, and I had some really old trainers like that I'd basically worn that were they weren't trainers. They were just walking shoes. I had no helmet or anything. So they put an announcement over the tannoy, did anyone have a spare helmet? And I got a mountain biker's very large helmet. And I had my old shoes that were, and I did the race in that on my TT bike, which must have looked hideous because I did pass some people and they could see me with these big shoes on and big socks on and a mountain biker's helmet, and pretending to know what I did in my TT bars.
And passing them as well.
I did pass them, yeah. I didn't get podium on that one, funnily enough.
Oh, Jamie, that's brilliant.
Probably the most comical one.
Yeah, good. Questions from the audience? Anyone got any questions they want to ask Kirsty with all her expertise and experience?
How do you fit your time in for training?
Actually, that was my last question. So there we go. No, go ahead.
So training and family. So
family and work. I mean, you just give
family and work. Yeah. So I do work full-time lawyer. Well, not full-time actually, 4.5 days, but feels like full-time. Busy life doing that, and 2 kids.
Active children.
So one top tip, get the children involved. So I coach with, as I think we mentioned a little bit at the start. So I coach and I'm involved with the junior Pentland Triathletes Junior, which is a really successful junior club that is obviously affiliated, or has been in the past affiliated with our club. So getting them involved and involving them in going for runs alongside me when they were younger. So that's always quite good, and at least they understand the pain of you doing a hard session. So they have some sympathy if you come home and you say you've just done a really hard session. They'll maybe give me 5 minutes to catch my breath before they bombard me with questions. Yeah. And then just building in some of your sessions maybe into your commute as well. So cycling to work, or just trying to mostly trying to fit my sessions in before work so that I know that I can do them before you get caught up with meetings is the way that I try to do it.
And do you think that's changing with this new program? When you look ahead of the program and what's ahead, can you see yourself working out how you can tweak things?
How you can flex it? Yeah. Well, here's hoping it all works. Let's let's wait and see. And I think catching, so my husband and I actually go run together on some of the long runs. So last week we had our long run together. So I think scheduling in a few runs and catch up time with is quite good as well. So
chatting on the run.
Depends on whose pace we're going at. So whether we're chatting or not.
Did you contact Sunshot? Did you do that job while you're running along?
There's no easy answer, I think, as we all know.
And the coaching piece you just mentioned. So what got you into coaching, and have you learned anything in terms of coaching junior triathletes, but also things that have helped you in your own training?
Yeah, I think the coaching's interesting. I think probably because we swim when the kids that we teach, we swim every week, and then we either do running or cycling. So I think actually because I'm coaching swimming, that's been really good, because I think actually watching swimming, and when you're on the pool side, it's so much easier to see the mistakes. And I think you can pick up on people's stroke, and you can see good and bad things about their stroke, and you become much more aware of the things that you maybe need to tweak. And I'm not saying that I can put these things into practice in my stroke, but I think you become aware of where your hand entry should be, what you're doing with your legs and body position and all that. And we're doing a lot of drills with them and things. So I think it's been good from that point of view, just a bit more self-awareness for my own swimming.
Excellent. We've got time for one more question. So before we do that, I'll give you a chance to think about it, so it can come in if you've got a question. But while you think about that, we can finish with what I've found quite a funny event as well. When, as a coach, one of your athletes, your daughter, went through transition and left her shoes in transition. How did that pan out?
So yeah, my youngest did her first open water triathlon and forgot to put her shoes on when she came out of the water, because I think she thought she'd only ever really done pool. She'd done pool triathlons before, but I think the excitement of taking off the wetsuit and putting on a race belt and taking, that was sort of enough. I think she thought she'd done enough at that stage and thought, all right, I must be good to go now.
Transition.
And so she ran out of a sandy beach area in the Lochore kind of area and just had no shoes. And then it was then the guy on the tannoy says, oh, someone's gone out with no shoes. That's going to hurt in the morning. And I just looked and I thought, oh, that's my daughter. So I had to get the one of the technical officials and said, could you pass me those shoes? That's my daughter's. And then she sprinted off. And honestly, it was an hour and back, and she was gone, and I had to run after her with the shoes, and eventually met her on her way back in. And she's like, "Oh, thanks for bringing me my shoes, Mum." So she put them on, and then she managed to. She said, it was much easier when I had my shoes on, so she's not made the mistake again.
So it feels like there's a theme there. There's that struggling a little bit initially with swimming and pushing on through, arriving at an event without the right kit and just putting on whatever you can find and pushing on through it. Most people will just give it up and watch. And clearly the same thing there. No shoes, who cares? I'll just go.
Off you go. Yeah.
Brilliant. Any other questions from anyone? Dave?
As somebody who's pleased and sometimes surprised to just finish, what does it take to get to the pointy end? What's your tips for people who want to get to the pointy end?
Pointy end. I think you probably have to kind of set yourself a few goals and have a few races that you're working to. So you are kind of constantly challenging yourself, because it is easy to slip into that, just kind of going at that zone 2 kind of plod pace. And I suppose I don't take, a bit like when Warren and I were chatting about Ironman plans and things, and you were saying about how you're still on the plan. Like I don't really ever stop training as such, so I still train all the way through the winter, just taking it down to a different level. So I think you still need to maintain that training. And over the winter, then I've sort of tried to focus on the bits where I'm not so good. Like, so maybe I did spend one winter, I think before I did the Bilbao, like I did a lot of cycling and, really focused on that, and kind of, and more recently being of a 40 plus, sort of focusing on the strength, trying to, build in the strength work as well, just so you've got that foundation of strength to kind of fall back on, particularly doing the strength over the winter. And then, but bit of perseverance and just, having maybe some accountability with the training program, so you have to go on it even on those days when you think it's raining outside.
A training program tells you not going fast enough.
Yeah.
Talks to you while you're going faster.
Yeah.
You still need the mindset.
Definitely. And the commitment.
Yeah, but it probably is a bit of a kind of a cycle thing. Like then when you've done quite well on a race and you think, oh, that's great. I feel, you feel quite good, obviously, afterwards, and then you think, I'm going to do another one. And so just go for it. Just sign up for the other one before you can think about it, and then, set your next challenge. And I probably always have another race lined up, even after a big one, I've got something,
something else to look
forward to.
Yeah. Kirsty, thank you so much. That was great and really good exploration through all of your experiences and your ups and downs and the fun and some of the traumas and things like that along the way. Thank you so much again. We'll be back again in a few weeks' time, and this is the February episode. March episode, we will be bringing in someone from the outside of the club for the first time. The guest then will be John Gildea, who is a good friend and part of the GB age group team setup, and he'll be along to join us. So please come along to be part of that. We're great to have a good club turnout in the audience for an outside guest. And then the following month in April, Dave, who's sitting here, will just returned from the Sahara. So we'll be talking all about that with Dave in April. So the next two are are lined up. So hopefully see you soon, and that you'll join us for those. Kirsty, brilliant. Thank you very much again. And thanks everyone for coming along.